Empathy is defined as the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference. This show is a medium for learning about empathy through conversations. Welcome to Empathy Speak with Arvind Venugopal. Tune in every Friday as I chat with people from around the world about diverse and heartfelt journeys. Each episode will feature world music clips by creative partners at Twameva Music. Sign up at empathyspeak.com for more details. Hello and welcome to Empathy Speak with Arvind Venugopal, where we learn about empathy through conversations. Did I just say empathy?
You said the same thing again.
My mind must be under an illusion because we have an amazing musician today on the show. Let me tell you about our guest today. His name is Sujit Kumar. Sujit is primarily a rock vocalist who sometimes paints, cooks often, and loves rum. You can follow his hashtag if you did not know that he loves rum. All right, so welcome Sujit, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Arvind.
Nice to see you here. And tell the audience, if you have been on podcast before and if you have any kind of experience, or like, is this like the first time you're having this fun experience?
Yeah, I've been on a few before because I sing with so many bands. So
yeah.
Quite a few of my bands have been part of different podcasts. So I've been part of quite a few, but I would say this is probably only the third or fourth time that I've been alone on a podcast, because normally I always have the rest of the band
right
with us. So it's like a group thing. This is a rare occasion when I'm alone.
That's great. Talking about being alone, these times, COVID times especially, it's not easy for all of us. And I know you are a full-time musician and a professional music teacher and everything. So tell me, how in general, like how you would describe yourself with like dealing with a situation and mental health, especially among musicians and artists. Would you like to talk to us about that a little bit?
Yes. I mean, even pre-COVID times and everything, something that I've always given a lot of importance to, and I've always tried to be part of helping is musicians going through a lot of mental health issues. This whole COVID thing has basically just upped the whole game far more. It's gotten far worse, I guess. But at the same time, for some musicians that I know, it's kind of been a relief, because they've been the kind of people who've been pressurized to play out and go out and perform. They're usually introverts. Yeah. So for them, it's like a welcome thing. Like, okay, now I'm not pressurized to go and play shows anymore, and I can stay home and do my music from home. But for a lot of others, like me, classic example, I'm a complete out and out extrovert. I mean, you've seen me. So going from meeting so many people every day, like literally every day, to meeting literally nobody in months is a drastic change, which yes, I did not do very well with it. I mean, not that I've let anybody else know, but I think I kind of finally decided to figure out a way to cope with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I'm doing pretty okay with dealing with it now. It's 6-7 months in. I'm not even sure how many months, how many days.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even know days and times now.
I can imagine, Sujit, because I'm also a musician, and I can understand. Especially, I'm also an outrovert. So I extrovert. In fact, I don't even remember the word now. Like I just said outrovert.
Yeah, because that word probably should be taken out of the dictionary, because that thing doesn't exist anymore. You can't.
I think it's a night of funny words for me today. But, but that's
a good solution is rum. 30 ml of rum and the tongue is like, it works better.
Spoken like a true rock star. So tell us a little bit about your fellow musicians, and are they going through the same kind of mental health, conversations, or like are they talking about it in your community, like, or what has been the scene?
Yeah, so now, at least in my case, when I say fellow musicians or fellow bandmates, I'm part of 5 or 6 different bands. So that already automatically means we're talking about more than 20, 25 people. And I would say that, yes, it's been a fair balance. There have been a few who have been completely losing it. Some of them I know are full-time musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, it's been a very, very scary experience, because they never thought that they'd be in a situation where there is no money coming in. Anytime when you have a job or whatever, you have a salary. Even during COVID times, you're still getting a salary. You're working from home. Right. These musicians who are, sessions musicians, and they're mainly touring musicians, like, touring with big Bollywood acts or touring with different bands. Every tour, every gig is shut, which means you get nothing.
Right.
There are some musicians that I know, okay, not my music musician, from part of my bandmates, but I know musicians back in India who've been playing in the Bollywood circuit, and Bollywood circuit is huge money. Like, they tour the US twice a year, they tour Europe, they tour the world. They're super busy. They make a lot of money in a regular season. And based on that, everybody has, worked hard, from coming from scratch, worked hard, and been able to actually buy their own house, buy their own car, which they're paying EMIs for and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Who expected that you're suddenly going to get zero money some month?
Right.
And zero money some month was bad enough. Zero money 3 months in a row. Zero money now for 6 months. And zero money for the foreseeable future.
Right.
I've seen musicians now having to sell their cars, and at least they're dealing with it. They're not as not reached that point of. I also have a few friends who've tried suicide or whatever, but at least these guys are still staying there, and I don't know how long. And what are the alternatives a musician has?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely personal struggles people are going through at these times, especially. And being an artist and a musician, I can only imagine that, like, some of the special struggles that people have. Do you want to share anything about any personal struggles and, like, the ways that you have found for yourself to overcome them, and, like, share those with our listeners?
Yeah, but what I would talk about is not current COVID related. Mm-hmm. But I would say growing up in a pretty much conservative South Indian family,
mm-hmm.
Where you're where all your cousins are coming out with, like, 90% marks.
Yeah.
Like it's like you can get 93% and still be a failure because somebody else got 95.
Yeah, the competition, right? I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because
and the level of competition with, academically was so strong. And then in the middle of all that, you're like, you want to be a musician. You want to grow your hair and you want to do rock music, which is blasphemy. So pretty much I was told by my dad to get out of the house. So I think around 17, somewhere between the ages of 17 and 19 or something, I was told to leave. I left.
Wow, it's like a movie script, right?
Yeah, it's like a failed Bollywood movie script.
Wow, I mean, I'm
Because
we're
that's like
laughing, but I can imagine as a 17-year-old, like it must be like your life has like two simple options: you stay and like just do what you don't want to do, or like you follow your heart, but it's gonna have come with these, side effects. So tell us more about what you did after and like.
Yeah. So the irony of the whole thing is that, so this was way back. So I'm really old, right? So this was some way back in like sometime in the 90s, late 90s. And during those days, you couldn't have a job, get a job with long hair and stuff. Sorry. So I've done my whole rebel thing of like, I'm going to go and live my life and make my world and blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, and at that time, my hair was the biggest thing. I will not take my life, but don't cut my hair, kind of, And the biggest irony was when I actually went out in the world, I realized I can't survive unless I cut my hair. And that was a crazy thing. And then working 9 to 5, I've done so many different jobs. Like I've actually sold books on the road.
Oh wow!
At traffic signals. I've gone door to door selling dabbas, Tupperware boxes door to door. The amount of jobs that I've gone through, and then even working for actual companies. Then I got into like exhibitions and conferences, and that's where I saw that little bit of a connection to the event scene. The funny thing is, I completely quit music. The reason I left everything for is I ended up quitting it.
That's really interesting. So what brought you back into the groove of music and everything?
So all this completely quitting music also had to do with the relationship that I was in then, which was, again, another irony of my life, because I thought this is the person who encouraged me with music and everything and understood me. But once we were together, it was the exact opposite. Like every time I would do music, I'd be like told, can you just shut up, please? So yeah, and I ended up quitting music. But 5 years later, at some point, it had to come back.
Yeah, thanks so much for sticking to your dreams and being an amazing musician. I know we are a part of multiple bands. We're going to talk about all that pretty shortly. You're currently listening to Empathy Speak with Arvind Venugopal, and we are talking to Sujit Kumar, the famous rock star in the Washington, D.C. area. We will be right back. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or phone. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back. You're listening to Empathy Speak with Arvind Venugopal, and we are talking to Sujit Kumar, a rock star located in the Washington, D.C. area. I had just mentioned that he is a rock star in the Washington, D.C. area, but I know, Sujit, you are an international star. You travel around the world, and you have been a part of and are actively part of multiple bands. So tell us about like how you keep up with all this, multitude of your talents in terms of various bands and traveling and everything. How did this come about?
how to deal with insomnia. So yeah, so I've always had a huge sleep problem. It's like one of the reasons why I don't understand when people talk about jet lag. Either my life is a jet lag, or I just don't understand people with jet lag, because I don't understand sleep. So now I do a little bit. So it's never been difficult for me to work with people across the world.
Yeah.
Like it's 3 a.m. here, it's 1 p.m. in Bombay, and I'm working with somebody there. And
so you have a band which is partially
Overhung.
here, partially over there? Okay.
Yeah, so Overhung is the band that I was playing with in India before I moved here. So I moved here in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And Overhung was the band that I was playing with there. And when I was moving here, obviously everybody thought the band is done. And we just said, no, we'll make it work, because initially we were all from Bombay. And then I moved to Gurgaon for a year. And that is when everybody thought the band is done. Like, how can you work when you're in two different parts of the country? Mm-hmm. But we made it work, because I would keep going down to back and meet these guys whenever we had shows. We would still tour. I would meet them 1 month before the tour, and then we would practice, and then we would tour. And then when I was moving here, we just kept the same. I just kept the same faith and belief that we'll make something happen.
Yeah.
And we just kept that belief, and that's when we got signed by a Canadian label, Test Your Metal Records.
Oh, wow.
From Canada. That was through a guy called Mujib Basha. I'm not sure whether you met him. He used to be very, very active in the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
He's currently in Chicago. Big music enthusiast. He's also the A&R for and partner of Test Your Metal in Canada.
That's great. And
so
I
he
know
got us signed.
Like you're talking about your bandmates, and you were mentioning the Canada connection. So do you actually have like bandmates in Canada too? Or?
Yes. So in Canada, I have another band as well called Siege Engine. They are based out of Canada. Currently, I've kind of pulled back from that because, like we know that, one of the reasons I was with them is because I could still drive down to Canada for shows, which I've done before. We've had shows. I drive down, or I take a bus. It's a 10-hour bus ride. And now with this whole COVID situation and everything, there is, like, I can't commit to any gigs that they can take. I can't keep them down anymore, whatever they can do there. So I'm kind of taking a step back from that band for now, a little bit. But yes, those members were there in Canada for Siege Engine. And then when Overhung, we were invited to play at Indie Week Festival. Indie Week Festival is one of the biggest independent festivals in the world that has been going on for 16 years. And for us to be invited to be playing there was huge. Mm-hmm. So when we got invited in 2018, we were all ready to play, and we had visa issues. So what I ended up doing is like, my whole thing has been like, don't let anything stop you. One person didn't get a visa, no. Second person's visa was delayed. Third person's visa was rejected. Whatever. We'll still keep it going. How do we do it? Go to Canada, find people. I found sessions musicians. I found a drummer, found a guitar player, found a bass player, and Overhung played that festival in 2018.
Wow.
And 2019, we were invited again, and then we had visa issues again. And we did the same thing. We were like, no, we are going to do it.
Wow.
We don't let, if you worked so much for something, you don't let it go because of a technicality.
Right.
You just make it happen.
Wow, that story is quite inspiring actually, because a lot of people, self-impose some restrictions on themselves, or like blame things on circumstances. But like you went above and beyond everything else, just basically making things happen. That's great. That's great story to, aspire to, I would say, for like anyone who is in any field, literally, because they can take inspiration from your story. And like, once you have like some goals in mind, you can set yourself like some targets and do what you can from your end, right? So, and then you keep your dreams alive. So
basically my whole thing is, don't sit and the time you spend sitting and complaining, sit and try to work out a solution.
Yeah, yeah.
There are times when you will feel completely defeated and you'll be like, no, I can't do this. It's beyond, it's not practical. And it's fine to think that way.
Yeah.
It's fine to feel defeated. It's fine to sit down and say, okay, this is not practical anymore. But there is something that I call the child in you or the flame in you that should never die.
Talking about a child in you, Sujit, I have a question. When you finish, I'll ask you. Finish
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, my thing was that itself. It's like, it's either the innocence of a child or the stupidity of a child or the shamelessness of a child is what keeps you going. You know that I don't know, I don't care, I don't know, understand these things, but I'll do it.
Right,
I'll probably walk off a cliff and fall down.
Yeah. They say, like, the children are like so precious in this world. In fact, when you mentioned something earlier in the podcast episode, it related to me because I grew up roughly around the same time frame without revealing my age. But I was going to ask you though, like, because rock music, especially, there have been some legendary rock musicians, and there were some golden periods for rock where, like, some of these artists were playing, and you must have been that child listening to all these amazing bands and musicians. So if you want to touch upon any particular artists that really inspired you, or like any moments of music that inspired you.
Yes. So here, I'll actually give a big shout out to my cousin, my elder cousin, Suraj Jagan. You probably heard of his name if you listen to Bollywood music. Suraj Jagan is a very well-known rock vocalist in the Bollywood scene right now. He used to be one of before he went complete Bollywood, he used to sing in a ton of rock bands then. And he was pretty much my first inspiration. He remains a mentor even now. Like once in a way, we still talk. And yes, like you're saying, Western musicians. Yes, we grew up listening to. I grew up listening to the tapes that he was listening to.
Yeah.
Which was stuff like Iron Maiden and Led Zeppelin and Scorpions and Guns N' Roses. For me, I think Guns N' Roses was my first favorite. I mean,
yeah.
Like if I had to choose and pick, Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden were the first two things, and then I was like, these are the bands I like. And the funniest thing is, this reminds me of that time, and this is how I actually start my first foray into music on my own. Me and a very good friend of mine, we used to play footballs, soccer in America, football around the rest of the world. I've played football. I paid for my entire college education through my football.
Oh, wow.
Because I was, I kind of played semi-pro football also back then. Little bit, not pro, but yes. Yeah. Being in a college that was for football.
Yeah, that's great, Sujit. Yeah, so I think, in fact, it totally resonates with me, some of the bands you mentioned, because I was also, listening to those bands growing up. Definitely everybody's, all the children have their dreams, and in fact, music, anyone in that time frame who grew up in that time frame who wanted to be a rock star, ended up listening to many of those bands. Talking about the band names, I know you're part of multiple bands, so we'll collect the information from you and share with the audience in the as part of the text in the podcast. But do you have any particular message for our viewers that they can take home, or like some message you want to share with the viewers?
No, I mean, I kind of. I should have saved what I said earlier for that message.
No, that's good.
Which I pretty much said that don't let that fire die down at any point. It's okay even if it dulls down to a complete flame, like a small little flame. It's okay. It's okay. Even if it like you're expecting a big pyre of flame and it becomes a small little candle, it's fine.
Yeah.
Let it be. Nurture that, and a candle can set a lot of things on fire anyway. Even a candle can set the whole place on fire. So it's okay if you feel demotivated.
Keep the fire in you alive. Keep it going.
Like, I'm not even saying keep the fire in you alive, because that is what people think. Like, oh, I don't feel the fire anymore. But then it's about keeping that, even the little flame inside. It's okay. You won't even feel it, but don't let that die. Don't totally give up.
Keep the light inside you.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah.
That's a great message. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your personal story and some topics that we threw at you, as well as some things that you had a lot to share. I feel like I can keep talking to you all day, all night, because there's so much to learn from you. But thanks again, and hope to have you again in a future episode at some point. So thanks for joining us, Sujit.
Cool. Thank you. It was great. It was great chatting, and it's always great to listen to everything that you're coming up with. In fact, I'm more excited to see what you're coming up with next.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. Sign up on our website empathyspeak.com for more details and to stay connected. Follow us on social media. Thanks to our creative partners from Ava Music. This is Arvind Venugopal signing off. See you next week.